I'm going to be reading to you Chapter 5, All Quiet on the Western Front. And really think about when we left off, we had Chapter 4, the scene up at the front lines. Really tragic, really fast-paced. We had the hip injury of the one soldier. Kat and Paul are considering killing him to put him out of his misery. And then we end Chapter 4 with they're back on the trucks, the lorries, and they're rolling away from the front, and it's this very slow, methodical tone, okay? And consider the shift here, the mood shift for Chapter 5. Killing each separate louse. Now, a louse is the singular form of lice, okay? So a louse is one lice. It's a tedious business when a man has hundreds. The little beasts are hard, and the everlasting cracking with one's fingernails very soon becomes wearisome. So Jaden has rigged up the lid of a boot polish tin with a piece of wire over the lighted stump of a candle. The lice are simply thrown into this little pan, crack, and they're done for. So they're sitting around picking lice off of themselves and throwing it into this little tin with a candle under it, making it really hot. We sit around with our shirts on our knees, our bodies naked to the warm air, and our hands at work. Hi has a particularly fine brand of louse. They have a red cross on their heads. He suggests that he brought them back from the hospital at Thorhout, where they attended personally on a Surgeon General. He says he means to use the fat that slowly accumulates in the tin lid for polishing his boots, and roars with laughter for half an hour at his own joke. But he gets little response today. We are too preoccupied with another affair. The rumor has materialized. Himmelstas has come. Remember, Himmelstas was their commander at boot camp. He appeared yesterday. We've already heard the well-known voice. He seems to have overdone it with a couple of young recruits on the plowed field at home, and unknown to him, the son of the local magistrate was watching. That cooked his goose. So he was a little too aggressive with some of the recruits, and someone had they had connections basically, and who saw it, and so he's in trouble, and now he's getting sent to the front. He will get some surprises here. Jaden has been meditating for hours what to say to him. High gazes thoughtfully at his great paws and winks at me. The thrashing was the high water mark of his life. He tells me he often dreams of it. Krapp and Mueller are amusing themselves. From somewhere or other, probably the Pioneer Cookhouse, Krapp has bagged for himself a mess tin full of beans. Mueller squints hungrily at it, but checks himself and says, Albert, what would you do if it were suddenly peacetime again? There won't be any peacetime, says Albert bluntly. Well, but if, persists Mueller, what would you do? Clear out of this, growls Krapp. Of course, and then what? Get drunk, says Albert. Don't talk rot. I mean seriously. So do I, says Krapp. What else should a man do? So again, we see this, they have nothing at home. Paul said earlier they're a wasteland. We see this, the disillusionment, this lost generation. They can't even think beyond the war. And when they try to, all they can think of is just getting drunk. Kat becomes interested. He levies tribute on Krapp's tin of beans, swallows some, and then considers for a while and says, you might get drunk first, of course, but then you take the next train for home and mother. Peacetime, man, Albert. He fumbles in his oilcloth pocketbook for a photograph and suddenly shows it all around. My old woman. Then he puts it back and swears. Damn lousy war. It's all very well for you to talk, I tell him. You've a wife and children. True, he nods, and I have to see to it that they've something to eat. We laugh. They won't lack for that, Kat. You'd scrounge it from somewhere. Mueller is insatiable and gives himself no peace. He wakes High Vestas out of his dream. Hi, what would you do if it was peacetime? Give you a kick in the backside for the way you talk, I say. How does it come about exactly? How does the cow shit come off the roof? Retorts Mueller laconically and turns to High Vestas again. It is too much for High. He shakes his freckled head. You mean when the war is over? Exactly. You've said it. Well, there'd be women, of course, eh? High licks his lips. Sure. By Jove, yes, says High, his face melting. Then I'd grab some good buxom dame, some real kitchen wench with plenty to get a hold of, you know, and jump straight into bed. Just you think, boys, a real feather bed with a spring mattress. I wouldn't put trousers on again for a week. Everyone is silent. The picture is too good. Our flesh creeps. At last Mueller pulls himself together and says, "And then what?" A pause. Then High explains rather awkwardly, "If I were a non-com, I'd stay with the Prussians and serve out my time." "High, you've got a screw loose, surely," I say. "Have you ever dug peat?" he retorts good-naturedly. "You try it." Then he pulls a spoon out of the top of his boot and reaches over into Crop's mess tin. "It can't be worse than digging trenches," I venture. High chews and grins. "It lasts longer, though, and there's no getting out of it either." "But man, surely it's better at home." "Some ways," says he, and with open mouth sinks into a daydream. You can see what he is thinking. There is the mean little hut on the moors, the hard work on the heath from morning till night in the heat, the miserable pay, the dirty laborer's clothes. "In the army, in peacetime, you've nothing to trouble about," he goes on. "Your food's found every day, or else you kick up a row. You've a bed every week, clean underwear like a perfect gent. You do your non-com's duty, you have a good suit of clothes. In the evening, you're a free man, and you go off to the pub." High is extraordinarily set on his idea. He's in love with it. "And when your 12 years are up, you get your pension and become the village bobby, and you can walk the whole day." He's already sweating on it. "And just you think how you'd be treated. Here a dram, there a pint. Everybody wants to be well in with the bobby." "You'll never be a nom-com, though, High," interrupts Cat. High looks at him sadly and is silent. His thoughts still linger over the clear evenings in autumn, the Sundays in the heather, the village bells, the afternoons and evenings with the servant girls, the fried bacon and barley, the carefree hours in the alehouse. He can't part with it, these dreams so abruptly. He merely growls. "What silly questions you ask." He pulls his shirt over his head and buttons up his tunic. "What would you do, Jadin?" asks Krop. Jadin thinks of one thing only. "See to it that Himmelstas doesn't get past me." Apparently he would like most to have him in a cage and sail into him with a club every morning. To Krop he says warmly, "If I were in your place, I'd see to it that I became a lieutenant. Then I could grind him till the water in his backside boils." So remember, Jadin was the one who was the bedwetter, and Himmelstas had that grand idea of bunking the two bedwetters together, so they pee on each other. So he's especially upset with Himmelstas. So his dream after the war is to just torture Himmelstas somehow. "And you, Dietering?" asks Mueller like an inquisitor. He's a born schoolmaster with all his questions. Dietering is sparing with his words, but on his subject he speaks. On this subject he speaks. He looks at the sky and says only the one sentence, "I would go straight on with the harvesting." Then he gets up and walks off. Remember, he's the one who owns the farm and has a wife back home. He is worried. His wife has to look after the farm. They've already taken away 2 more of his horses. Every day he reads the papers that come to see whether it is raining in his little corner of Oldenburg. They haven't brought in the hay yet. At this moment, Himmelstas appears. He comes straight up to our group. Jadin's face turns red. He stretches his length on the grass and shuts his eyes in excitement. Himmelstas is a little hesitant. His gait becomes slower. Then he marches up to us. No one makes any motion to stand up. Krop looks up at him with interest. He continues to stand in front of us and wait. As no one says anything, he launches a, "Well." A couple seconds go by. Apparently Himmelstas doesn't quite know what to do. He would like most to set us all on the run again, but he seems to have learned already that the front line isn't a parade ground. He tries it on, though, and by addressing himself to one instead of to all of us, he hopes to get some response. Krop is nearest, so he favors him. "Well, you here too?" But Albert's no friend of his. "Bit longer than you, I fancy," he retorts. The red mustache twitches. "You don't recognize me anymore, what?" Jadin now opens his eyes. "I do, though." Himmelstats turns to him. "Jadin, isn't it?" Jadin lifts his head. "And do you know what you are?" Himmelstas is disconcerted. "Since when have we become so familiar? I don't remember that we ever slept in the gutter together." He has no idea what to make of the situation. He didn't expect this open hostility, but he is on his guard. He has already had some rot dinned into him about getting a shot in the back. The question about the gutter makes Jadin so mad he has become almost witty. "No, you slept there by yourself." Himmelstas begins to boil, but Jadin gets in ahead of him. He must bring off his insult. "Wouldn't you like to know what you are? A dirty hound, that's what you are. I've been wanting to tell you that for a long time." The satisfaction of months shines in his dull pig's eyes as he spits out, dirty hound. Himmelstoss lets fly too now. What's that, you muckrake, you dirty peat stealer? Stand up there, bring your heels together when your superior officer speaks to you. Jardin waves him off. You take a run and jump at yourself, Himmelstoss. Himmelstoss is a raging book of army regulations. The Kaiser couldn't be more insulted, and the Kaiser is the king or emperor of Germany. Jardin, I command you as your superior officer, stand up. Anything else you would like? Asked Jardin. Will you obey my order or not? Jardin replies without knowing it in the well-known classical phrase, and at the same time he ventilates his backside. And that's a comical way of saying he farts. So that's Jardin's response to fart. I'll have you court-martialed, storms Himmelstoss. We watch him disappear in the direction of the orderly room. Hai and Jardin burst into a regular peat digger's bellow. Hai laughs so much that he dislocates his jaw and suddenly stands there helpless with his mouth wide open. Albert has to put it back again by giving it a blow with his fist. Cat is troubled. If he reports you, it'll be pretty serious. Do you think he will? Asked Jardin. Sure to, I say. The least I'll get will be 5 days close arrest, says Cat, or the least you'll get. That doesn't worry Jardin. 5 days clink and 5 days rest. And if they send you to the fortress, urges the thoroughgoing Mueller, well, for the time being, the war will be over as far as I'm concerned. Jardin is a cheerful soul. There aren't any worries for him. He goes off with Hai and Lear so that they won't find him in the first flush of excitement. So he's saying, so what if I get 5 days punishment? That's 5 days that I'm away from the war. Mueller hasn't finished yet. He tackles Krapp again. Albert, if you were really at home now, what would you do? Krapp is contented now and more accommodating. How many of us were there in the class exactly? We count up. Out of 20, 7 are dead, 4 wounded, and 1 in a madhouse. That makes 12. 3 of them are lieutenants, says Mueller. Do you think they will still let Kenrick sit on them? We guess not. We wouldn't let ourselves be sat on for that matter. What do you mean by the threefold theme of William Tell? Says Krapp reminiscently and roars with laughter. What was the purpose of the Poetic League of Göttingen? Asked Mueller suddenly and earnestly. How many children has Charles the Bald? I interrupt gently. You'll never make anything of your life, Bomber, croaks Mueller. So what they're doing here is they're mocking Kenrick. Okay, they're mocking, making fun of their teacher, the things that he might have said in class. When was the Battle of Vanna? Krapp wants to know. You lack the studious mind, Krapp. Sit down. 3 minus, I say. What offices does Lycurgus consider the most important for the state? Asks Mueller, pretending to take off his pince-nez. Does it go, we Germans fear God and none else in the whole world? Or we, the Germans, fear God and I submit. How many inhabitants has Melbourne? Asks Mueller. How do you expect to succeed in life if you don't know that? I ask Albert hotly, which he caps with, what is meant by cohesion? We remember mighty little of all that rubbish. Anyway, it has never been the slightest use to us. At school, nobody ever taught us how to light a cigarette in the storm of rain. At school, nobody ever taught us how to light a cigarette in a storm of rain, nor how a fire could be made with wet wood, nor that it is best to stick a bayonet in the belly because there it doesn't get jammed as it does in the ribs. So here they're thinking, like, what's the use of all that stuff we learned? It's not helpful here in the war. And that begs the question, are there things that teachers teach now that maybe isn't useful or maybe is not relevant? Just something to think about. Mueller says thoughtfully, what's the use? We'll have to go back and sit on the forms again. I consider that out of the question. We might take a special exam. That needs preparation. And if you do get through, what then? A student's life isn't any better. If you have no money, you have to work like the devil. It's a bit better, but it's rot all the same, everything they teach you. Krapp supports me. How can a man take all that stuff seriously when he's once been out here? Still, you must have an occupation of some sort, insists Mueller, as though he were Kenrick himself. Albert cleans his nails with a knife. We are surprised at this delicacy, but it is merely pensiveness. He puts the knife away and continues. That's just it. Kat and Dietering and Hai will go back to their jobs because they had them already. Himmelstas too. But we never had any. How will we ever get used to one after this? Here. He makes a gesture towards the front. What we'll want is a private income, and then we'll be able to live by ourselves in a wood, I say. But at once I feel ashamed at this absurd idea. So again, what Albert just said, everyone else, those people have a life. They have wives, they have children, they have family. We never had a chance to start our life. There's nothing for us to go back to. We are lost. But what will really happen when we go back, wonders Mueller, and even he is troubled. Kropp gives a shrug. I don't know. Let's get back first, and then we'll find out. We are all utterly at a loss. What could we do? I ask. I don't want to do anything, replies Kropp wearily. You'll be dead one day, so what does it matter? I don't think we'll ever go back. When I think about it, Albert, I say, after a while, rolling over on my back, when I hear the word peacetime, it goes to my head. And if it really came, I think I would do some unimaginable thing, something, that it's worth having lain here in the muck for. But I can't even imagine anything. All I do know is that this business about professors and studies and salaries and so on makes me sick. It is and always was disgusting. I don't see anything at all, Albert. All at once, everything seems to me confused and hopeless. Kropp feels it too. It will go pretty hard with us all, but nobody at home seems to worry much about it. 2 years of shells and bombs, a man won't peel that off as easy as a sock. So their experiences are not going to go away easily when they go home. And we're going to see that with the shell shock and the PTSD that comes out of World War I. We agree that it's the same for everyone, not only for us here, but everywhere, for everyone who is of our age, to some more and to others less. It is the common fate of our generation. Albert expresses it. The war has ruined us for everything. He is right. We are not youth any longer. We don't want to take the world by storm. We are fleeing. We fly from ourselves, from our life. We were 18 and had begun to love life and the world, and we had to shoot it to pieces. The first bomb, the first explosion, burst in our hearts. We are cut off from activity, from striving, from progress. We believe in such things no longer. We believe in the war. Okay, and really think about that. He is saying here, they have nothing to believe in. The war has ruined us for everything. And I just want you to think, this is written by a German author, okay? Remarque is German. But is this just about German soldiers? Or do you think there's a universality to the themes in here, to war ruining people? Did it also ruin the French and the British in the same way? And I'm going to pause right here, and I'm going to make a part 2 video for this chapter, so we're going to leave off on page 88.